Content warning. The following episode contains themes of suicidal thoughts, child loss, and postnatal depression.
Hello, I'm your host, Diona Doherty, and this is the V Revolution podcast. Today we're going to decode some of the weird, wacky, and wonderful things about the female body.
And hi, I'm Dr. Priya, and today we're deep diving into those conversations about postpartum, because let's be real, ladies, we're all in this together. If you have any concerns about something that we say, please don't hesitate to contact your local GP.
This podcast is brought to you by women's intimate health brand, Balance Active. So grab a cup of tea and let's revolutionise how we talk about women's intimate health. The postpartum period is usually a really challenging and confusing time in a person's life, and also a time that I find there's absolutely no manual for and can be really lonely as well as really just traumatic at times as well. So we have a brilliant guest today who you might know from Love Island or from her brilliant social media content. Please welcome Malin Andersson.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you so much for coming in and joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about
all things postpartum. Yeah. This is a conversation I could talk all day about. I think since I became a mum, it became my entire identity. It was like everything I wanted to talk about was all the mum stuff and everything that happened to me afterwards. You have a little girl?
Yeah, her name's Zaya. She's just turned 2 years old. And it has been a crazy journey since her birth. I struggled with prenatal depression, but more so postnatal depression as well with her. And looking back now, I don't actually know how I kind of got through it, but I was in such a dark place.
Yeah.
And all I had was a focus of being a mum, and that kept me going. You just do your mum duties, but then you lose yourself in the process, and you don't tend to you because you have this like newborn, and her dad left when she was 2 months old. So I remember just persevering on.
Her dad left when she was 2 months old?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was with her on my own. I don't have my parents alive. I didn't have any help. I remember my best friend helping me when she kind of could. So it was so isolating, so lonely, and it kind of pushed me though.
I find that's already a lonely time, even if you are surrounded by people.
Yeah, definitely.
To have nobody around is like...
I have some friends, but I've always been kind of a lone ranger. I've kind of got through things on my own accord. But I guess the period of when she was born brought up a lot of grief that I hadn't addressed with my mum and my daughter that I lost as well, baby Concy. So for me, it was a space of clearing and trying to heal. In the midst of like a dark kind of depression, but I came out the other side and it was all good. So,
and she's 2 now.
Yeah, she's a nutter.
Yeah. I have a 2-year-old as well, and I swear, I feel like you're in like a special group when you have toddlers. You're just trying to heal and just get through the day. I'm away obviously for doing this at the minute, and I was talking to my husband this morning. I was like, "What's today's plan?" And he was like, "Just get through the day. I'm gonna survive this day because it's obviously crazy." So talk me through like and obviously I feel like a lot of the postpartum experience starts from the birth, like how you gave birth and how that affected you, and what, like I feel like that is the area surrounding the actual day of the birth is so important, and something that's neglected to be like considered when someone then considers how their 4th trimester will be after they have the baby. So talk to me about that, like your birth. How was that for you?
It was a bit of a weird one. It wasn't a planned C-section or anything. I was meant to have a natural birth, but she didn't want to come out. And so I had an emergency C-section, and I ended up in the same operating theatre where I lost my daughter. So I remember it being a bit of a blur. I was in the same kind of bed, same doctor came to me, and it was so strange. So I had the fear of, oh my God, she's going to die instantly.
Yes.
But then obviously I had all these drugs in me and whatnot, and it just happened like within a flash, and obviously she was fine. But I think that wasn't addressed too much. And then there was definitely no aftercare with anything. And that was pretty much it. And I think I was just an autopilot. My nervous system was fired up. Nothing was regulated within me. I was functioning on coffee. I had no sleep. And I was just literally surviving past her birth.
So if your daughter's 2, is she closer to 3 or closer to 2?
No, she just turned 2.
Okay, so slightly post-pandemic, or were we out of...
No, we're well out of it.
Well out of pandemic.
Well out
okay, yeah. My daughter's nearly 3, but I had her in the middle of lockdown. So it was like you're on your own and during the birth for most of it, and it's obviously not a nice experience. But I think even like post-pandemic, the experience of mothers having their child is completely different than it was before. The care just isn't the same, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, did you have your like 6 to 8 week checks, things like that?
I think I can't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of women, they don't realise that they think that the checks are for the babies, but actually there's a 6 to 8 week check for the mothers to check for any sort of mental health conditions, you know, check for discharge, things like that. So a lot of women, they just like combine them into one appointment.
But it's like a mum thing to do. Is like when you have your child, I think immediately you go, oh, I don't matter now, and like so it's of course it's a mum brain thing to do, to be like, oh, this checkup's for the baby, because you forget that you exist
and not prioritise yourself.
Yeah, you take such a back seat. So did you say you suffer with postnatal depression?
Yeah, prenatal and postnatal depression.
And how did you know? Like, what was I mean, obviously there's I had postnatal depression as well, and I don't think I wasn't the person who went, I have postnatal depression. Did you recognise that in yourself?
Oh yeah, I'm just really connected with my body and my soul, my spirit, all of that, and I just was so unbalanced. But I think because I was clinging on to the hope of her dad coming back so quick, that was all I was focusing on, and I lost myself throughout that process. So in hindsight, looking back, I could have done things differently. I should have focused on me straight away, but obviously hindsight's a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah.
And then like the kind of self-development and the healing came a little bit later, when Zaya got to around, I'd say, 10 months old. And with the postnatal came the drinking on the weekends, the binge drinking and things like that. So there are different coping mechanisms involved. But obviously looking back now, I can see what was going on. So yeah, I recognised it within myself.
Did you accept medical help with postnatal depression, or did you just navigate that yourself?
I had private therapy anyway. I had one-to-ones. I meditate daily, you know, I exercise. I went on quite a big weight loss journey after I had her, actually. I lost about 6 stone in the past 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was my kind of focus, exercise and getting my health back.
Yeah.
For me, that was quite important.
Okay. Yeah, because for me, when I was diagnosed with postnatal depression, I remember my daughter she had COVID when she was born. I had COVID, but she was very unsettled, and it was like a mixture of lots of different things, I think, that led to, obviously it's hormonal as well and all those things. And your health visitor that comes in and checks the baby and stuff, and I remember her just saying to me one day, are you okay? And when someone does that, and you just start going, and then you start crying. And that was when I was like, no, I'm not. I'm actually really, really not. But I didn't tell her. I was like, no, I'm fine. But she knew, and she left my house, and brilliantly within 15 minutes, my GP phoned me. Wow. She phoned the GP and was like, you need to ring that girl straight away. Because obviously it was just, especially when it's your first, I think it's such a culture shock when you have a child. It's just like, what is this? Like, it is a shit show 24/7. Like, I now have 2, and my second baby is so relaxed, and I'm much more relaxed because it's my second experience of it, and I think you just change how you parent, you know, because you're like, I know not to worry about this and worry about that, and then maybe that's led him to be more chill. But with the first experience, I'm sure you can agree too, Marlin, that you're just like, there's no manual.
Yeah.
So you're so lost. You've no idea what to do. And nobody who's had a child before can tell you what to do, because every child's different.
Yeah.
They should all be the same, and then it'd be so much easier if they were exactly the same.
And I mean, at the GP, so what we see a lot is that people come in, they think, oh, you know, they've got baby blues. It happens usually a few days after birth, where people feel a bit teary, you know, very sad.
It's the drop in hormones.
This lasts for a few days, and a lot of women, they think, you know, a few months after pregnancy, when they're still feeling sad, they're still, you know, feeling really low, that this is just baby blues, it's going to go away. But actually, it's depression, and it's postnatal depression, and this is just as severe. It's obviously an illness. It's just as severe as, you know, normal depression that we see. And people get the two confused, because postnatal depression actually needs to be addressed. It needs some sort of treatment.
Yeah, and especially because you now have a dependent as well. You know, you're not on your own. It's urgent, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of women, they sometimes feel quite scared to get the help that they need.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes they think, oh no, if like my GP thinks I'm depressed, you know, what's going to happen to my baby? Is it going to get taken away?
Yeah.
And when women are depressed, they can have quite scary thoughts. You know, they can get quite anxious, they can have thoughts about, harming their baby, where obviously it's all just part of the illness.
Yeah.
And so it's so important that women who do feel sad, I mean, it happens, 1 in 10 women get postnatal depression. It's
Wow.
very, very common, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so important that these women get the help that they need before, it spirals and escalates.
But there's such a shame attached to it, I think, if you have postnatal depression. I think I don't know how you felt about talking to anybody about it. I remember feeling shameful.
Yeah, I think when you have, they call it a rainbow baby, a child after a child dies, they expect you to be really happy and like, wow, come
So
on, like you've got a baby now, and it was complete opposite for me. In fact, I felt worse.
Yeah.
I had like guilt, not to mention the depression side of things, and confusion as well, and then not having my mum around to help me or have the guidance.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a lot of pressure to be happy, like you're a mum now, but people don't
Exactly.
take into account everything else, do they? So.
And that's so conflicting in your mind for if you've lost a child, and then as you say, people are like, not that void's filled.
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
not.
no.
That's always going to be there. I of course. So for me as well, I did IVF to have both of my children, and I remember it took us about 7 years to have my daughter, and then whenever we had her, it was because then I had such bad postnatal depression. I was like,
yeah.
But why am I not just delighted? I've got this is what I've been trying to do for nearly a decade. I should be so happy, and then the guilt with that going, in my head, I remember feeling like I've made a mistake. I shouldn't have had a child. This is the worst feeling ever. I don't like this. And then I felt so guilty because obviously that's not what you mean. You don't mean that at the time. And you're going, but it's so conflicted in your brain because you've tried so long and this is what you really wanted to have, and it's just not what you thought it was going to be. You know what I mean? And I know that passes because it does. It doesn't. It stays for a while, and you're saying around 10 months after your daughter, you start to feel a wee bit more yourself again. And for me, it was about 18 months, but that does pass. And physically as well, the change in your body when you have a child, it takes years, if ever, where you feel I feel like that same they say the day a baby was born, a mother was born as well. You're a different person forever, physically, mentally, emotionally. That's it. It's completely different. And physically, you obviously went through such a transformation after you had your daughter. Was that kick-started from having your daughter? Was that something that you?
I think it was awoken within me after I had her. My priority was my core. I wanted to get core strength back because that takes a while.
Yeah.
So I hired a PT and she checked in on how it was closing. What's it called? The thing inside?
Your abs?
Underneath that.
I hate
where it
seeing those guys.
separates.
The separated abdominal muscle.
Yeah.
Where you have you can put your fingers in between your two sheets of muscles.
To make sure that it was closing correctly, and I hadn't exercised too soon. So I started off by walking, a little bit of running, and then strength training, and then just doing everything properly. Everyone goes on this kind of mum diet and things like that, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to just be healthy within my mind and my body, and so I just ate correctly, retrained myself, and just took it from there really. And I wanted to feel like me.
Yeah.
She's a crazy little girl, so to pick her up all the time the way I'm doing, I wouldn't have been able to do that before.
I saw this brilliant video the other day. It was on TikTok or something. I was like, do you know what sort of drop we all did whenever we were all out in the early 2000s in a nightclub? We dropped on the floor dancing. And it's like, oh, I knew this would come in handy someday. And it's you holding a toddler trying to pick up a nappy or something at the same time.
Always bend from your knees.
Yeah.
Never straight down.
It used to be a sexy dance move. Now it's just trying to pick up a dirty nappy whilst holding a toddler. That's now I'm like this here with the two of them, but your back, I think I have chronic back pain now. Does your back okay? I suppose you exercise a lot.
I do yoga, so that's really helped with it. Because we cause, a lot of this.
All that.
So you have to really
we spend all day going, don't you? Stop it. Yeah, you do. So I get whiplash 5 times a day just from going, stop it.
I take her for a walk and she's like, okay, up, mummy, up. And I'm like, what? In the middle of a field, she wants me to carry her,
Yeah.
So you need to make sure you've got that on lock. Your back's everything.
But it's so much because obviously you're they say in the first year after you have a child that you lose 133 nights worth of sleep. So you lose a third of your sleep. And that is to have to have such responsibility 24/7, that sleep deprived is so difficult to stay positive.
Yeah.
You look at me I'm still knackered.
I know. I'm like, wee. She just never slept. She just wanted me. I don't know if that was due to co-parenting at such a young age. There could be slight attachment there.
Yeah.
which is beautiful, you know. I can't complain. Like, I love having her in my bed, then I just want her out.
Yeah.
It's like she kicks me in the head at like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
But the sleep thing, I think I had to just deal with it.
Yeah.
You have to just go with it, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, the coffee doesn't even work anymore.
No. I have a coffee and go straight to bed.
Same.
But it's that, like, you fight or flight mode, I think, that you put yourself into, especially in that first year. I always say the first year is the trenches.
Massively.
You know, when you're just like trying to get out of the trenches.
Surviving.
Yeah. You didn't, and then, like, I even remember my daughter was 8 days old when I did my first TV jobs. Not like since she was born, so I was on TV when she was 8 days old. And my husband had her in my green room. And the whole time we were filming, I could hear her crying. And I went in, and my husband was like, she's been asleep the whole time. But it's that phantom crying
Yeah, I
you
had
hear.
that all the time.
You hear your baby crying. They're not crying, but you hear it all the time. It's like the world
Especially
going...
in the shower.
In the shower.
Yeah, when you creep in the shower because they're asleep and you're like, you're awake.
Yeah, you hear crying and they're not. And what is that? You're just always on such high alert, and that's exhausting.
Yeah, I can imagine it's quite stressful. Is there anything that you do to deal with that?
Do you know what?
Turn the radio up.
No, wait. Do you know what I thought? Like, her camera stopped working for a bit. I was like, I don't even need it anymore. But I'd wake up anyway prior to her waking up. And I was like, does that make it worse having it? Because I'm like, looking, 3 in the morning, I wake up, is she asleep? Was she there? Like,
do you know one of the best things I actually did for my own mental health after I had my son? So my daughter's camera in her room, I could access from my phone anywhere in the world, anywhere in the world. I was no more than a mile from the house. I'm a jet setter. And I could always see it on my phone on an app. And I would log in all the time, micromanage. My husband is brilliant, and I'd be like micromanage and like everything. And it was just, I couldn't let go of like the parenting responsibilities, even when I was at work or out trying to do anything sociable. And the best thing I did was get rid of the app, so that when I left the house, just accepted that my husband is in the house, the kids are fine, they're in their bed, they're asleep, everyone's fine. I do not need to look on the app every 20 minutes. And as soon as I got rid of that, I felt like when I was out of the house, I could actually, my focus could be on whatever I was doing rather than just constantly checking the bloody app.
yeah.
And it's small things like that you don't realise that's like clogging up your brain waves. It's like I'm using all of my focus on this instead of what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, you become so distracted.
Yeah. Sometimes technology is just gone too far.
Yes.
You know, it's actually hindering our like emotional well-being.
Exactly, and it's taken over. You're like, you know, I mean, it's great to have the cameras that you can look at, obviously, but like whenever you're constantly micromanaging it can't be good for you either.
Well, listen to this, right? I got sent a sock for her called it. I'm not going to mention the brand name.
Oh.
It monitors their breathing, their heart rate in case something drops at night or something.
Oh yes.
And I think they sent it to me because of what had happened. They had no like relation actually. And it actually made it work. I didn't even want to use it. I was like, that's too much paranoia and fear involved.
Yes.
But you know what I mean? That is really micromanaging.
Do you know? But you look back to like our parents' ages and when they had us and they were like, you existed, you were fine. Like I'm obsessed with like wake windows, exactly how long, and sleep schedules, and I am like at my brain's like Rayman all day long, doing numbers, how long I've been awake and when I have to go back to sleep and how long my nap was and blah blah blah, and I can't get that out of my brain. It's like constant. But if I say that to my mum will be like, I just put you to bed when you look tired.
Yeah.
And I'm like, to be so carefree. And she's like, no, it was a different time because we have so much information now about parenting online that you don't know what to implement and what to ignore and what's actually too much information. You know what I mean? Let's go like that. It's like sometimes just too much.
Yeah.
And then you're just going to be bogged down with that. And especially in that first year postpartum where like you really don't think straight anyway.
Yeah.
And you can almost be sold anything.
Yeah, definitely. But do you know what I want to see more from the NHS? I think single parenting, there is nothing like in terms of support groups or places where mums can go, where the pressure is. We talk back to the camera thing, and I think that was like my best friend at the time because I'd be looking at it, trying to do my work, trying to balance the house, like be the mum, and to do it on your own, and then you have to take them out to these baby groups and you're exhausted. I think there wasn't enough help around that at all, and I think there needs to be a little bit more with that, because that contributed to my depression even more.
I'm sure.
It's definitely such a common thing nowadays. Like there are so many single parents, and doctors don't really have that education on, you know, how to act differently or what to do differently, and so that definitely needs to be something that's implemented. There are obviously charities and support groups out there, but not enough from like the doctors.
Yeah, and even in the area I live in too, there wouldn't be that many. Like, it's just not very well advertised about like the groups that you can go meet up. Like, even like my daughter's injections. Even like I have my kid, I take them for their vaccinations. But my daughter, who was my first child, her vaccinations, she got them very late, like 4 or 5 months after each one was due, because I physically couldn't take her outside, because she was just very unsettled, and I was obviously very postnatally depressed. And I was like, I can't actually go outside. So I remember just constantly getting calls from the hospital, like, you need to bring in for her injections. And I'd be like, hey, I'll bring in like next week. And they'd send you a letter for an appointment, and I would just put it straight in the bin. And then because you're just like, I can't go outside, I can't put her in the car, she's going to scream the place down. Now it is her favourite place to be, because there's a radio where she can listen to Elsa, and she just sings Frozen songs. And it's funny how like my biggest fear postnatally was taking my daughter out in the car, because it made her scream. She hated being in the car. And now she's like, oh my God, I can't. If I'm going somewhere, she's like, can I come with you? And we can listen to songs the whole time and sing at the top of our lungs. It's like, this used to be the scariest place in the world to be, and now it's like her little, it's like, we're going on an adventure. So it's so wild how like things become so different than they were initially. Like, they're a completely different experience.
And Diona, what did you do to help with the postnatal depression?
I got medicated. I went, so my health visitor had spoken to my GP. My GP rang me, recommended that I take medication, which I immediately started taking. And now I did take it for 1.5 years, and I will admit there was twice that I thought, I'm doing great, I'm going to come off this, I'm doing fine. But actually what was happening is the medication was working brilliantly. I wasn't quite ready to come off it altogether, but I was in a great place, but whilst I was on medication. And then when I went to have my son, I had to come off it, because you can't take it when you're pregnant. But actually what I realised then is I didn't need it anymore, and I was absolutely fine. And the biggest fear I think you have then, when you have a second child, am I going to have that same experience? And I didn't. I didn't have a single glimmer of postnatal depression the second time at all. Whereas I was like, my body is going to remember that experience and be triggered from it again. And I wasn't. And so the second time around was absolutely fine. But I think obviously everybody's experience is so different, which is why there isn't a manual. And I sort of said there a while ago about physically, like trying to, you become so unrecognisable to yourself. I think even your fitness levels, like you're big into fitness, you both are, you're an ultra runner, and you're obviously like big into your fitness as well. And that is probably something that's maybe saved you in that process as well, as finding...
Yeah, do you know what's weird? I was on fluoxetine. They gave it to me when I was pregnant, because I needed it, otherwise I'd just kill myself. I know it sounds so morbid. I was like, well, suicidal, like prenatal. And they inflicted a lot of fear with that. In fact, a pharmacist gave it to me. He was like, you shouldn't even be taking this. And
well, my mental health's more important right now.
Don't say that. Like, you can't be saying... And, you know, Zaya's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
There's like the minor, like... And I think that puts a lot of women off going on them, because they inflict a lot of fear with that. But I needed it at that time. I needed it just after my pregnancy. And then I came off of it because I wanted to feel emotion a bit more and feel a bit more unblocked. So that was ready for me, because I felt a little bit numb on it. And then I used exercise to take over. And that really, really helped. So, yeah.
And I think as well, there's a massive pressure when you just have a baby of like how you're going to feed your baby as well. Like breast or bottle is like a massive thing as well. And I breastfed, but I almost like did it like a murder. Do you know what I mean? Like I was like, I did with my daughter till she was 19 months old, and I was like, oh, and I could have easily stopped way before, but it was like I sickly thrived off the whole. I'll do it. I'm a murderer, and I'm gonna. Do you know what I mean? It was like so stupid, because it was actually quite detrimental for me. Breastfeeding, I loved it and it was brilliant, but there was times it felt quite detrimental, because my daughter never took a bottle once ever, not even of expressed milk. So she was with me everywhere, all the time, at work, everything I did, and that was detrimental to me ever finding myself again postnatally. You know what I mean? Like, you can't really get back to yourself when you're when there's none of you left, like you're just constantly giving yourself to your child. So I made the decision when I had my son, I still wanted to breastfeed, but I said I am going to stop at 6 months because I needed that for myself. And then I stopped. He's 8 months now, so stopped 2 months ago. And I was really worried about that crash in hormones, because after you stop breastfeeding, there is that like crash in hormones, and I was really worried about that. But it was fine. It's like you build up so many of these like worries of things that, you know, could happen, and lots of the times they don't, and I suppose that's just what fear is, isn't it?
Absolutely. You have to do just what feels natural to you. And a lot of women, they don't, you know, some women don't breastfeed at all, others breastfeed for, you know, up to a year. So it just depends on how your body's like reacting and how you're feeling, and it's you know, there's not one way that's better than the other, you know, it's all what works for you, and that is
pressure.
The best way. It is the pressure, there's the stigma, you know. Obviously women want to like be able, you know, we're strong, we're powerful, we want to like be able to provide for our children in all ways, and breastfeeding is one of them. And so I think that's probably where the stigma and it's like that whole thing where you're even like going through the IVF process too, everything feels so unnatural and so like, you know, it doesn't feel like that's what you're supposed to do. And did you ever get any like I suppose, what were your feelings towards having a C-section? I know it was an emergency C-section, but were you disappointed? Was it what you know?
As long as she was healthy, I didn't care. To be honest, I'm quite glad she didn't come out of my Nina.
Yeah.
It was starting to hurt. But my mum had 4 C-sections. Yeah. She was a tiny thing, and it was fine. It was just post-recovery. Yeah. I felt like just really, you know, I couldn't do anything. I had to help with showering and stuff like that, and I couldn't even pick her up properly. It hurt. So I felt a bit like not working properly as a mum, if that makes sense. But it was fine. It was fine. And
I know you said that you'd obviously lost your baby girl to begin with too, and you don't have to talk about anything that you don't want to talk about. But, you know, obviously that lead you, I mean, I assume so, to be almost scared to be pregnant again?
Oh, yeah. I'll be checking to see, like, the miscarriage every single day in the toilet, you know, constantly in fear, thinking, and I think
you're just thinking it's going to end any day soon.
Yeah, it drives you crazy,
Yeah, and obviously that's, so did you have prenatal depression then?
Yeah, that's why I had prenatal,
You were just worried the whole time, which is just an added layer that nobody needs, you know what I mean? That's quite unique to you, I suppose. And now 2 years after having your daughter, like, do you feel yourself again, or a new version of yourself, I suppose?
Yeah, I feel more of my authentic self than I've ever been in my whole life. Yeah. Kind of, I feel like having...
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, having her, she brought out a lot of unaddressed like healing within me, and there was a lot of generational trauma I cut off with her as well.
That's
the way
amazing.
my mum raised me, I've done differently with her, and she's accelerated that. She's pushed me to be the best version of me, so I can end any bad things right now, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, definitely.
And like that takes so much work, I think, to like change how for generational trauma, because that's in your DNA. How you're going to be a mum is a lot of the time mirrored about how you've seen mothering. Yeah. So to change that takes a lot of work. What did you do to, like, how did you work on yourself so much to make that such a different approach?
Meditated like every day for an hour.
Wow.
Like, I just sit. I think
I don't think I've ever meditated ever.
Really?
No.
I just have to like access parts of my brain that I can't usually access, and I have to just sit with myself and be still, because I have ADHD, and you know, I was living in such a fight or flight mode for such a long time. I was running away from myself, and all I had to do was sit with myself. Yeah. And they always say, you know, we're human beings, not doing. We just need to be. Yeah. And so I just took it upon myself to just sit, exercise, yoga, meditate, but then just be really still and listen to what comes up. Yeah. And I think with the generational trauma stuff, with me having prior eating disorders, that came up quite strongly in one of my meditations, you know, to give her a balanced diet, give her, don't restrict, you know, all of that crap came up. And so just.
That's one of the main, I think in the sort of heroin chic era that we grew up in is what it was called. It was like everyone was obsessed with being extremely thin, and it was like, I feel like I don't know any women in their sort of late 20s, early 30s who haven't had first-hand or second-hand experience of somebody with disordered eating, and it's we were just shown that constantly in the media, and I don't think it's the same. The media is different now, but it's still very distorted for young girls. And obviously my girl's nearly 3, and I feel exactly the same. Like, you're just constantly trying to like give them the best messages about their body and not restrict any food. All food is food. Eat whatever you want. But like, you know, because as soon as you attach these labels to certain things, then that's the one that they want more, and it's just such a difficult world to navigate. You're just trying not to fuck them up.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I make them okay in the end? Like, it's.
Do you find it difficult to like manage your own diet when you're thinking about someone else's diet, like your children's diet?
No, I think I had to teach myself to be more intuitive with my eating. With Zaya, I give her all sorts on a plate, like weird things, olives, eggs, or like anything, and then she'll eat what she wants, and I won't force her to eat it.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I just really tune into what I'm wanting that day.
Yeah.
I try and be a bit more healthier in terms of sugar's like the devil, man. Like with me, because I'll just have one thing and then. But doing it for the right reasons. I recently went veggie because I just felt meat wasn't kind of vibing with me. It was just making me feel a bit sluggish. But she will eat meat. She actually doesn't even want to eat meat most of the time.
Yeah.
But I will never push anything onto her. I think one thing that I was like shy about was when I did lose the weight, because I was such a huge advocate for body positivity, which is back then, you know, like being bigger and dancing in your underwear was actually me running away from myself and not addressing the things that I was carrying inside. And so when I did lose the weight, I was quite shy and embarrassed to post anything to do with being healthy, which is so weird and messed up. Yeah. Now I don't give a shit.
Do you know what that's like? That's like
Do you know
in
what I mean?
school, people are like, I haven't revised for my exams. And you're all, it's okay to be smart.
Yeah.
It's fine that you've revised.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. That social media is so fucking weird and toxic. But so I think encouraging being healthy in a good way that's good for you.
Yeah.
I do it for my brain function.
Yeah.
So I can have maximum clarity in everything I can do.
So you spoke about meditating. Did you start doing that after you had your daughter, or is that something you've always done?
I've always done it, but not for anything longer than like 5-10 minutes. And I haven't done it in a way where I can like access my subconscious mind. I went through quite an awakening like not long ago. I've had a few spiritual awakenings, but this time it's just been something mad, like intense. I won't go into it too much.
I'm so intrigued.
I know, it's really weird. So like, they call it a Kundalini awakening, where your whole body just activates your chakras. And so it's just a bit nuts, really. But I wasn't expecting it, but it's just clearing out all of these blockages that I've been like suppressed and holding on to for such a long time. But
because you see,
I don't understand.
No, I totally understand you, because few people actually understand the benefits of like mindfulness and meditation until you actually do it.
Yeah.
And you do it
because it sounds like, and then you do it, and you're all, whoa, what was I? Why was that? Yeah,
it's almost like a drug. Just meditating.
It's free.
You've got to
free
get onto it.
All the kids are doing it. No, but I've never meditated in my life, but I've always been really intrigued. But like you're saying there, you have to sit still with yourself and you have to just be there. And I'm like 90 miles an hour all the time, and we all are. I'm sure, but I would struggle. I think it's like probably once you open the gateway, you can then access that. But I have lost the key to the gate. And even like you see older people, like I really admire this about older people who grew up before the sort of technological era, and they'll sit on the bus or in the house, and they're very still and they're very calm, and they're okay with just looking around them. Like we get our phones out in the ads, TV. People get their phones out at the red light.
We want a dopamine hit all the time.
All the time.
We want shopping. We want things instantly. We want the phone. We want the sugar. We want.
You can't sit for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I want my phone right now.
You're boring.
But if you're aware of it, that's the first step. Like being aware, like I consciously make an effort to not pick up my phone all the time. I put it on sleep mode sometimes, especially around Zaya.
I know.
I feel so guilty because my work is on the phone.
Same,
as well.
mine too.
So if she's near me, mummy, I'm like, fuck, like put it away, man. I feel like shit when I'm like around and I'm on the phone. Like, it's not good. It's not good. I don't want to see that.
But it's it's different, because if you had a laptop out, would you feel less guilty? Do you know what I mean? I suppose the laptop's a bit more definitive, like, go away. But the phone is like quick and accessible.
What do you think about like, they call them iPad kids?
Talk
to me about that, because you got to do what you got to do,
You got to do what you got to do. Everyone's different and everyone's navigating their own thing. And also I seen this, so obviously you mean about people like giving their kids iPads when they're like in the pram doing the groceries or out having dinner in the restaurant or just anywhere where they just need a bit of peace.
Yeah, because I was at a cafe yesterday. She was like, "Baby shark," and I was like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah.
So I got out, and then I got these looks from people, and I thought, "Fuck you."
You do
I've
what you
got to
gotta do.
What I gotta do.
Exactly, especially if you're like solo parenting. Like that's, by the way, all day. That's it. Like that means you all day, and so you gotta do what you gotta do, but. Also, it depends on the temperament of your child.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
you can say that your child has got us. Oh no, we've taught ours to not like to sit there quietly and to do whatever. But they're just people. They have different temperaments. And I saw a study one time that showed like a mother sat with her baby, and these are kids that are like under 2, and it went to grab the toy, and the mother took it and went, no, and put it away, and then the baby just never went back for the toy, and that was it. And that is my son, my second child. That's who he would be. And then the next video was exact same scenario. Child went for and the child threw a wobbler. And you're like, but that's temperament. That's not how they've been taught to behave.
Yeah.
That is just their temperament.
Yeah.
So there are kids who you need to go, here's an iPad, there's Peppa, give me 10 minutes.
Yeah, 100%. Manzay is so fiery. She's feisty as anything. And I love that in her.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you're her mum. Do you know what I mean?
She just screams like female independence. She's like, no.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, whoa, I'm scared of her. Like, I'm out with her. I'm like, please.
But it's this, I know. You're like, am I in trouble? Do you want me to go to the bold step?
But I get that guilt. They're looking, oh God.
You fine?
I get the guilt. They're looking at me like I'm a piece of shit. I was really clear yesterday, so I was like, I looked at them back,
Yeah.
oh, don't you look at me?
Do you know what you should have done? Turn the iPad up and let them all listen to Baby Shark. But I think it's just so hard to navigate, and obviously, like, you know, you have to do what you have to do, and every child's different. So, but I think like once they get a bit older, then you know, once you're past that, like, how long is postpartum?
So, I mean, there is no, I don't think there's...
I think like people do have like fourth trimester, which is like the couple of months afterwards, but it feels like I still feel very much like my son's 8.5 months old, and I feel like I had him yesterday.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? It feels like just yesterday. It doesn't feel like that much time has passed, and I don't know how many years it takes, and I'm sure we all get there at some point where you're like, okay, I can like finally start to feel a little bit more like myself, because it's just such a long road.
Yeah, I mean, postpartum, the actual phrase postpartum is actually it's 6 weeks. That's what they say. But obviously all the...
Who wrote that, a man?
But obviously, you know, the things that can occur, like postnatal depression, that kind of stuff can last a lot
They all
longer.
crop up then.
Yeah.
I have a few questions that have been sent on that I'd like to share with you both, and maybe we can shed a bit of insight. So, I'm a mum of 2 beautiful twin boys, but I'm struggling a lot getting back on track with my fitness, and nothing seems to be shifting the baby belly. Do you have any advice on struggling with body image? So not necessarily shedding the weight, but with her body image after giving birth, and finding the balance between self-care and social expectations. The online is just filled with the sort of nonsense of like, this is what I'm like now after having a baby, and we're wearing matching outfits, and there's a baby chino and all this shit that you're like, that's not really how we all feel.
I think for that, the hardest way I learned was what is the underlying cause of overeating or undereating. There's an emotional barrier there which you haven't addressed.
Yeah.
And you have to take off all of these layers. And then, you know, therapy, different things and different tools can help that, because to go on a diet is a period of time where you're trying to lose weight, and it's not a lifestyle overhaul, it's not a lifestyle change. You want to keep it as a healthy, balanced lifestyle. You want a lifestyle change. You don't want to just go on a diet, lose weight, and then, because you know nothing's going to change essentially.
No.
So
I don't think that ever looks after your mind. Like that doesn't change your outlook.
So I think it's addressing what's beneath the reasons of your body image issues.
Yeah.
Was it someone in childhood that called you fat? Was it bullying? Was it your parents' way of parenting you? There are so many different layers to it, and it becomes so complex, and you have to get to the root of it. And it's not just as simple as going on a diet, because they're very temporary. They never fix anything. And then you add in exercise as something that's fun and not a chore. I do something I love boxing. I love doing circuit training or different things. And it's when you see things as regimental, it becomes very unhealthy for the mind.
Yeah.
You know?
I think for me, the best way to view exercise after having kids was is a wee bit of time on my own.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
I used to
mean?
drop her off to my friend and be like, I'm going to the gym for an hour.
Yeah. It's self-care, and
Yeah.
it shouldn't be a luxury. It should be a staple in your life where you get some amount of self-care. Your showers get to be longer than 45 seconds. You get to brush your teeth before 1 PM, like just things like that. You know, you get those like bits of self-care. They shouldn't be a luxury. But as regards like your own self-image after you have children, it's so warped, I think, because, you know, I think a lot of us, like I remember like looking at my husband like, are you happy now? Do you know, you're just like, you don't have to go through these changes that I have to go through. And they need to understand as well, the people around you need to, if you have a partner at home or family members, they just need to understand the changes that you're going through physically, hormonally, emotionally, in order to be equipped to like know that these aren't permanent. Like if you're having mood swings, if you have postnatal depression, or I had bad postnatal anxiety, and never, my daughter didn't get babysat for 5 minutes until she was about 17 months old. No one ever had her, ever, except for me and my husband, because I was like, they'll do it wrong. You know what I mean? You just get so worried. And so all those things, it's like building a community of people around you, if you can, I suppose, that like understand.
I mean, communication is so important, because a lot of women don't know this, but men can also get postnatal depression.
Yes.
So that's something that I didn't really know.
Yeah.
Even as a medical student, we weren't taught this. It was only after I started working when I realised that this can be the case.
Yeah.
And so it's so important that, obviously, one of the things that happens when you have a baby is that relationships can become more strained.
Yeah.
You know, you're tired, you're stressed, you're not communicating as much, and then, you know, postnatal depression can crop up, and it's so important just to have that those honest conversations with your partner. If you have a partner, that, you know, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, do you want me to hug you? Do you want me to listen to you? Like,
Yeah.
what would you want? What
Yeah,
do you
yeah,
want?
yeah. One or the other,
Not both.
please.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Not both.
Don't give me solutions all day. I've got them. I know. So from having a C-section as well, because I didn't have any C-section, so that is obviously, you have scarring now, I assume, for life.
Yeah.
And that's obviously like an immediate change in your body that is permanent as well. And so was that something that ever bothered you?
No, well, they did it through the same scar as my other daughter.
Yeah.
So it's just there. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
It's just a part of me. It's a part of my journey, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit of a dead pouch there. It's like dead. You can't feel it. It's a weird muscle.
Can you not feel
no,
it?
It's like dead skin. I'm poking it now. I'm like, ooh.
And you can't feel it?
No,
it's like, do you know in
numb
school when they do like
almost.
a dead man's nose? No? Is that just my skill?
No.
Were they,
Oh, that's
oh
probably
no,
what it
you
is.
did this, you did this, and then you did that, and you can't feel it. Feel it with your other hand now. I'm such a child.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it probably
It feels like you
that.
can't feel it, yeah. So it's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to share another question with you now. My partner and I are new parents, and we absolutely love it. However, I recently noticed that we're tending to bicker more, and it's putting a real strain on our relationship. We're really tired all the time and have no time to ourselves. We used to be so strong, and I believe we could get back to that, but I don't know where to start. I mean, I know obviously saying your relationship broke down after you had your daughter as well.
It was really toxic.
Okay.
It's terrible. He just didn't like speak about his emotions and stuff either. It was very closed.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I was a psychopath as well. But I was going through depression, wasn't I?
Yeah.
So it was just a complete meh.
Everything wasn't working.
Yeah, I'll let you answer this.
Yeah. No, but even for me as well, like me and my husband still, like we do this thing now where like if one of us are having like a day of it and we're like about to like just murder each other, we'd be like it's us against them about the kids. Do you know? I'd be like it's if we're just like overstimulated and exhausted and whatever, and I'd be like, it's us against them, like we're a team, we can't fall out with each other in the middle of like a screaming toddler and whatever, all these things that are going on. You have to realise that look, you can be a team. But I'm sure, like I know lots of relationships that have broken down in that first year after having a baby, because it's like all of a sudden your relationship that used to be everything, and even during possibly the pregnancy part of the relationship where you're like, it seems like we're excited for this next chapter, and then it's not what you thought it was going to be, can really be the end of. And I suppose then that can also lead to postnatal depression as well if you're dealing with that at the same time.
Absolutely, and it's important to realise that your partner they're not a substitute from your like work life and your friends. And so when you have a baby, you're all together, you're surrounded by just your partner and your baby, and it can get quite overwhelming.
Yeah.
I can imagine, because you're isolated from work, friends.
Yeah.
So it's important that you find someone else, friends to
have a wee bitch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And rely on for support as
Yeah.
well. And also, I think it's important to mention that domestic abuse, those cases increase during pregnancy and after pregnancy.
Right.
Yeah. So because of the strain on relationships that
Yeah.
pregnancy and having a baby can have, and so it's important that women, are aware about this and pick up on it and know that there are so many different ways, so many different options, people to contact for support.
I always say it's like the biggest confliction having kids. It's like the best and the worst thing at the exact same time. Do you mean it's like everything and nothing all at once? And it's like I even because I had my kids through IVF, I remember just constantly feeling guilty by people who were still not able to have children. So the whole time I was pregnant, I was like, I'm so delighted to be pregnant, but Christ, I feel awful for all these people who still can't. So you're just constantly, and then I think that's what's like, even after you have your child, you're like, I want to be with you all day long, but Christ, I need a break. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so difficult to navigate that time. So I suppose it's being mindful of our physical and mental health throughout that process. Thank you so much for joining us, Malin. You've been brilliant.
Thank you for having me.
You have such a story, and I look forward to following the rest of your journey online.
Thank you.
Do you want to let everybody know where they can find you if they'd like to know more about you?
Instagram, Miss Malin Sarah.
Happy days. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.